So I was called out on a bit of an emergency here. A huge limb broke off on this big black oak, Quercus guy, and if you follow my channel, you'll see that this is a tree that grows wild up in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and a lot of people have problems with it. Most often, the trees that have problems are trees that have had impacts or something that has happened to them in the past, or excessive pruning. In this case, there was also another difficulty, and that was that the base was entirely rotted. It was like two trunks growing together, and I got in there and spent about half an hour just poking and poking at it. You can see how deep I got it in there. I took a stick out and probed it, and it went all the way over to the other side. There was a connection on the other side, a bit of a union that I'll show you when I go around the other side. But that also showed the beginning stages of a split that was working its way all the way around. And it was a pretty sketchy job. So the part that broke was actually on the back half that broke. The part that was leaning long and low, as you'll see right here, that one had not broken yet. That was the part that was a ticking time bomb. I said, you got to get that off of there. So fortunately, we had another big tree adjacent to it so that we had something to tie into. But this tree also had a bit of a potential difficulty. It was also rotted in the main crotch. Not near as bad, so we felt okay about it. Now this limb, Jorge opted to go out there after he got all tied in from the other tree. And we took a few big limbs off first as he was working his way out. But one thing to think about is when you're way out on a long lateral limb that has an incredible amount of weight on it, anything can happen. I mean, every one of these little branches that you cut off lightens the load, but you know, you got to remember that the base of this tree is cracked and rotted. So he's tied in, but he's not tied to this branch. In the event that the whole thing should go, you don't want to be tied to the branch. Unless, of course, you've got some kind of a special breakaway carabiner or something that kind of stabilizes you, but that's also kind of sketchy.
Okay.
So he's perched up here on this long branch, and we're roping some stuff down. So I'm using two cameras here. I set up my one camera on the ground looking straight up at him, and this is going to be the big cut. This was a little bit nerve-wracking. We were roping it down, but this wood is very, very tenacious. It hangs on really well. And as you can see, he made an undercut. Let's go to another view here so you can see just how far out it is. This shot's a little bit early. He'd cleared all the brush out of the way before he made the final cut here. But he's way out on that limb. He went even further to make this cut. So he made the undercut, but it hung up. What he was afraid of was if you cut too far on the undercut with that much weight on it, it's going to pinch the saw, and then you're stuck. You got to get another saw up there and start all over. So here I've got another viewpoint. This is interesting. Because he's on this branch that has so much tension on it, it's like a springboard. And you're going to see what happens here in just a minute. There, he put the undercut, he put the top cut, and it's still hung up. So, here's what happened. Bounced him right off of the branch. He was tied in, he was safe. It didn't even really shock him that much. Here's a closer, I zoomed in a little bit to show it to you. But that much jolting really threw him up in the air and knocked him off the branch. And the difficulty there was he had to get back up onto the branch from that position. We had to do a little bit of a body hoist and throw his feet up over the branch. And when he went, the saw didn't shut off, so that was dangling around. That was kind of sketch. You know, that could have been a real bad incident. So I was fortunate. I was able to get the bucket truck up to part of it and get the other side. So what we're doing is we're getting all the weight off of this black oak, but we're not cutting it all the way down. It was kind of a touch and go decision there. but if we got enough of the weight off, which was considerable, we could let this stump sucker out and he would still have some privacy from the road. And we made it perfectly safe. So I'm zooming in here just to show you how tight the grain is. That's on one of the branches. I counted over 130 rings on just that small bit of branch there. And I'm using my electric saw. I'm working awfully close to the rope here. So I was cutting right up to it and then snapping them off and breaking them. We're doing a bit of speed lining down into the garden area, and that worked out really well. Speed lining is fun. If you're not used to speed lining, definitely learn how and give it a try. It's a way of getting brush and branches and all kinds of stuff out of the yard quickly or down to a safe spot. There's Jorge finishing off the other side there. This is a little bit out of order. So like I said, we chunked it all the way down to, it was about an 18-foot pole, and all of the leverage. We took every bit of weight off of it. So it was just going to be a mass of suckers. So in essence, it's no longer a tree, it's more of a bush. But they sucker out quite vigorously, and we left all the low suckers. He probably should have let that run all the way down, but I think he was afraid of smashing some of our plants there. Jorge wanted him to let it run all the way in one shot. And there's the final cleanup. We're going to leave it at that spot, and I took the other side down to a comparable height. And then we also had to go trim out some of the end weight on the adjacent black oak, because that had some limbs that were way out over the garden. So he was able to throw his rope and get it back over and work from one tree to the next. And these are the final shots, all cleaned up. There it is. That's perfectly safe. There's all the end weight cuts that we made on that other adjacent big black oak. It was a kind of a sketchy job, but it went really well. As always, I thank you guys for watching, and please leave comments and let me know what kind of videos you'd like to see. I try to do the best I can, and give me a thumbs up. That helps in the algorithms there, and thanks a lot.